Hi, thanks for joining this talk today, and I will talk about the visualization of the Apache Zeppelin and the Mesos cluster environment. How Zeppelin supports the Mesos environment. Uh, I'm a software engineer in ZEPL. ZEPL is a creator of Apache Zeppelin, and they're working on it to develop the Apache Zeppelin currently. And I'm a PMC member of Apache Zeppelin from September 2015. And personally, I'm interested in the enterprise environment and multi-user circumstances and the cluster kind of Yarn on Mesos or Docker and AWS itself. Yes, so these are topics I want to discuss with you today. And there are three main parts. One is for the overview of the Apache Zeppelin. And the second one is cluster manager, and the last one is Helium. Yeah. The second one is the cluster manager is related to the Mesos cluster environment, and the Helium is a newly introduced visualization framework in the Zeppelin, Apache Zeppelin from the next major release. Yeah, let's start. Yeah, Apache Zeppelin. Yeah, Apache Zeppelin is a web-based notebook, looks like it, and you can Zeppelin supports executing your script, kind of Spark script or Python script, and the SQL queries, and then showing the results as a looks like a table and the graph and the chart and the map visualization also as well. Yeah, and if your team work with the Zeppelin, this is what you can do in your team. At first, data engineer can ingest data from Kafka and wherever you can access, and then clean the data from the maybe script, not SQL, just Spark script and the Python script to cleansing or cleaning the data, and then the data scientist query or analyze the data from the cleaned data. Data engineer supported them, and then data scientists make a BI report, and your C-level or the boss or the team leader can see the report inside the Zeppelin without any additional work. And if you want to get the PDF version of the BI report, you can just print out the page, and then you can get the PDF report. You don't have to make any additional PDF or PPT file for submitting the report to the other person. Yeah, this is the simple structure of the Zeppelin servers. As far as I know, almost the Zeppelin presentation provide and show and introduce the how to use the specific interpreter or how to draw a beautiful graph and how to set the interpreter where you want. But today I will talk about more in detail about interpreter and the Helium. Yeah, Zeppelin server consists three main plugin subsystem called Helium and storage and the interpreter. This means you can add your custom visualization without any change of Zeppelin servers, and you can also add some interpreters into your current Zeppelin server without any code change. You can also add a storage service without any change at all. Yeah. Interpreter. Interpreter is based on the Zeppelin's backend system. There are 24 interpreters for now, currently, as far as I know, I counted yesterday, and including the Spark and JDBC and Flink, Kylin and Ignite and so on. Python 2. And the interpreter is a gateway. It means you can execute the code through the external service, kind of Spark and the JDBC database, and you can get the results back from the external services through the interpreters. At the first time, Zeppelin launched the interpreter as a separate thread inside the Zeppelin server, but it causes many problems. So nowadays, Zeppelin server launches interpreter as a separate process to prevent conflicting the dependencies. So it enables you can use whatever you want. It can enable user can use their own library without interfering any dependency problem inside with the Zeppelin servers. And the interpreter setting is based on the interpreter by creating interpreter. The interpreter setting has environment variable and properties. So one interesting thing is you can create interpreter with the same interpreter group. For example, you can create two different kind of Spark interpreter. For example, you can create Spark 1.6 interpreters and Spark 2.1 interpreter within a single Zeppelin server instances. And also, you can install. You can create the Python 2 and Python 3 interpreters at the same time, and you can test your script in the Python 2 or Python 3 simultaneously and get the results back. Cluster manager. Actually, interpreter already has a pluggable subsystem, but the limitation there are some critical limitations. Zeppelin servers allows only the local process for launching the interpreter from now. So we suggested the cluster manager. Cluster manager supports to launch your interpreter in the cluster or the remote machine or remote Docker or whatever you want. So you can launch your interpreter where you want to. Yes, Mesos Cluster Manager is one of cluster managers Zeppelin already has. This is a feature list of the Mesos Cluster Manager. If you are using Mesos Cluster Manager, then it means all interpreters will be launched in the Mesos Cluster environment. It has no additional local process at all, so you cannot see any additional process in your server where Zeppelin runs, and it also behaves as the same as local process did. It's very natural and necessary feature because user doesn't want to know my interpreter my interpreters are run in the local process or the Mesos cluster. So and the Zeppelin remote interpreter uses Mesos lifecycle managers. It means Zeppelin. Zeppelin cluster manager is if you are using Mesos cluster manager, Zeppelin's lifecycle manager is become Mesos scheduler. So it become more fault tolerant because I believe Mesos scheduler is more fault tolerant than the Zeppelin's own lifecycle managers. And you can choose which interpreters are in the Mesos Mesos Cluster environment by setting the Zeppelin.cluster manager to Mesos. For example, Markdown interpreter is very lightweight and use less memory. But so you and almost users don't want to launch the Markdown interpreter in the Mesos cluster. So and then you can you don't have to set the cluster manager to Mesos, and then Markdown manager will be launched in the local process. Yes, I will show the demo, and demo is very simple because it's almost the same as a local behavior. So I will, yeah, and I installed Mesos 1.2.0 in our company's test cluster, and I have launched some executors to test how can it be alive. Yeah, and so then I will restart the interpreters. Yeah, and Spark, I will restart interpreters, Spark interpreters. Oh. Yes, interpreter task 1 is shut down, and I will start this is a tutorial provided by the Zeppelin initially, so I will learn the paragraph. This is a simple example to get the bank data from the internet and then parse and make a table and register that data as a bank table. Yeah, it took more time because yeah, while we are waiting, I will show you the interpreter settings, then Spark. This is a Spark interpreter settings. Oh. Yes, the most setting will be passed to the Spark native library, native binary, and the prefix with the Zeppelin is used by the Zeppelin interpreter. So and you can set the Spark home also to which version of Spark you want to run, and I will set the cluster manager to Mesos, but I'm not sure why it runs. I also have different demo. This is just Python and the PySpark. So yes, Zeppelin has powerful Python interpreter. Zeppelin's Python interpreter support Docker and the Conda to keep the environment. If you are using Python.docker, you can activate Docker image for Python interpreter and set the and you can set your custom library through the Python.conda without any share script too. Oh my God, why? I'm sorry. I'm not sure why it. Okay, then and Python interpreter also migrate the matplotlib. So if you are using matplotlib like Git, Zeppelin will draw the graph or any image interactively. So this is a Python. This is Python interpreter example, and you can learn the Python script. This is the task 2, as far as I know. Yeah, and I'm afraid to restart it because, yeah, also, you can learn the Python script like it. Yeah, it's also under the Mesos Cluster environment. So yes, you can use the Python interpreter in the Mesos Cluster environment, and I'm not sure why my Spark interpreter doesn't work at all. Just uh, yeah, all the Spark interpreters are shutting down, and I will restart. It's weird. I'm not sure why it interfering two different kind of Spark interpreter. Yes, but I will try to solve it later. And running this script by these interpreters, and this is a kind of Spark interpreter launched in the Mesos cluster. So yeah, that's the bug. And so you can use the all your script, including Spark itself and the Spark SQL and the PySpark with only one Spark interpreter simultaneously with and it shares context with each other, so you don't have to register a bank again for running the dist program. Yeah. And just started and started. Yeah, it works well, but I found it interfering with different Spark interpreters. Yeah, and also you can Spark interpreter. Spark already has a Mesos. Spark already already supported to run the Spark script inside the Mesos cluster. So I have tested the Spark Mesos. Spark Mesos setting looks like it. Just only difference from the Spark interpreter is the master value. I set the master value to the Mesos master address, and so I run the script, simple script. Yes, it's quite slow because it bootstrap all the Spark binary into the cluster, and I'm not sure why why two Spark interpreter at the same time. Okay, anyway. Yes, this is more detail about the Mesos Cluster Manager. Uh, it behaves almost same as local interpreter, but there are some difference for now. For example, it doesn't support embedded Spark binary inside the Zeppelin, not yet. And but you can set the local or Mesos // address format, and the JDBC format also are separate, and you can run the Spark and SQL and PySpark and R simultaneously in just one Spark interpreters. And I'm not sure it's the proper way to use the Mesos cluster, but in case of Zeppelin, each Zeppelin interpreter has its own executor and just only one long running task. Yeah, this is simple diagram to launch how Zeppelin launched the Mesos cluster. How Zeppelin launched the interpreter into the Mesos cluster. The left side is a Zeppelin server, and the right side is Mesos cluster. Zeppelin server remote interpreter is one of components in charge of managing all kind of interpreter instances. If you are using Mesos cluster environment, remote interpreter create the Mesos scheduler inside the remote interpreter, and then Mesos scheduler execute the request to the Mesos master to creating executor and running the task. So yes, this is a cluster manager class. Cluster manager class has only 4 methods. So if you want to implement new cluster manager, just implement these 4 methods. And especially the most important method is create interpreter, and create interpreter returns remote interpreter process, and remote interpreter process are in charge of creating or the stop or starting or the stop the interpreter process in the actual clusters. So yes, so the and Zeppelin server already has the Thrift as a RPC system. So remote interpreter process should provide how do cluster manager pass the host and port information from the Zeppelin server and the interpreters. Yeah, the second part is the Helium. Yeah. Helium is the newly introduced the feature from the 0.8, and to overcome the problem as I mentioned. Yeah, Zeppelin is a open source project and it has a long release cycle, but currently in a production level, this long release cycle is too hard to maintain or fix the bug. And most of fancy or most of interesting front-end library has a commercial license, but the Zeppelin is under the Apache software license, so it can be included the commercial license at all. So Helium, to solve it, we introduced Helium. Helium is the pluggable front-end system. So you can easily add the front-end features with the Helium without any Zeppelin's web app, modifying any Zeppelin's app. And it supports npm registry. Yeah, I will explain it later. Yeah. And Helium has three subtypes. So the first one is spell. Spell is simply front-end interpreter. Zeppelin's backend interpreter is has a problem, and it's hard to implement it because Zeppelin interpreter also has RPC system and run script asynchronously. So you have to know all about the interpreter's backend, and it's also based on the Java. So the developer is not familiar with the Java and the build system. It's hard to build or develop or improve the interpreters. So Spell supports the JavaScript. You can use the JavaScript to develop the interpreters, and it's quite simple and easy to use and easy to develop for the front-end engineer. And I will show you the demo. Spell is more Spell demo. Yes, this is a magic word for the Markdown interpreter. Yeah, you can use by typing %MD. You can use the Markdown interpreter in the backend side, and I have this long Markdown page and run the script. But in the Java, Markdown library is not perfect and not fancy, so it doesn't have any. It doesn't parse anything. It doesn't ever parse anything correctly. So we developed Helium menu and the Spell. I will use the Zeppelin Markdown Spell. It's more fancier than before. Yeah, the usage is very simple, just percentile Markdown and text. So yes, this is quite looks better. All of Markdown texts are rendered and looks beautiful. And most important thing is you can modify the Markdown interpreter easily, and you can add your own Markdown interpreter easily too. And this is a MessJax. Actually, Zeppelin doesn't have any backend for the parsing this kind of text, and one of our member added the MessJax spell interpreter, spell front-end interpreter, so you can run this paragraph. Looks like this, but and it doesn't communicate to the backend system at all. Just only the front-end side engine. Yeah, this is a spell, and you can see all list of spell here. Yeah, and also next subsystem of the Helium is visualization. Zeppelin already has a six built-in visualization, as I saw you before. Yeah, this is a 6 built-in visualization table and bar chart, pie chart, or several line chart. This is built-in. But I will add some new visualization. Looks like leaflet and the heat map, the multi-line charts for the demo, and you can find your visualization package inside in the Helium menu. You can enable it by clicking just enable and just OK. Click the OK, and then you will see it. After refreshing the page. Yes, this one. And just disable it also by clicking it and just refresh. It disappeared. It's quite slow because it communicated with the Korean server, so it took a long time. Yeah, the visualization is disappeared. Yeah, and what's the difference of the helium visualization? Built-in visualization has several problems. For example, it's hard to customize because that built-in visualization is under the Zeppelin web app. So if you want to add that visualization, you have to know about the Zeppelin web app, whole Zeppelin web app project. And for the same reason, it's hard to add new one into the Zeppelin web app. Actually, Zeppelin web app is very complicated for several functions. So it's actually it avoids the commercial license issue because it's not included in the Zeppelin source code. So you can use if you have a commercial license, you can use the commercial license library by adding your custom visualization through the Helium, and it also npm registry. Yeah, demo. Visualization demo is I enabled 3 of visualization Helium for the demo and 1 and the heat map and the ultimate line charts. Yes, this is an example to execute the Spark script as a bank again, and then run the SQL script and draw a graph. Yeah, I hope it works well. Yeah, and this is a bank example, but you can see the graph with the built-in visualization, but someone don't like it, so new visualization graph looks like heat map. Just selecting the value, looks like. Yes, you can change everything for like it. And the second example is for the ultimate line chart. It's also the new charts, not the built-in visualization, and you can use it by adding the Helium visualization package called ultimate line charts. And you can also add the map visualization, looks like it, and you can draw. You can use whole map visualization library and just add your data into the into the map visualization library. Yes. This is my last slide. How Zeppelin support npm online registry? The first step, some user create a Helium package and they publish into npm registry. That it's done. And rest of them, Zeppelin's CloudWatch handle all other things. Just yes, CloudWatch launch every 1 hour and filter the Helium package and fetch the data from the whole npm registry and integrate data and make helium.json and save this file into the S3. And your Zeppelin instance connect connect and get the file from the S3, and you can see like this screen. Yeah, this is actually every time this is this is refreshable every time you access to the Helium page. So it's quite, yeah, it took some time because refreshing the S3 from helium.json from the S3. Yes, that's it. Any question about the Zeppelin and or the Mesos cluster? Okay, thank you.